We are here today to talk about bow hunting, and Chris is going to do most of the speaking on this because I actually don't bow hunt. I have shot the bow and arrow the first time you took me in Marin in San Francisco, which was really awesome. I loved that experience, but it was just a good old traditional bow, and I know that when you actually hunt, it's much more practical to have a compound bow.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. And the big question that brought this up is someone was asking, should I start hunting with a bow and arrow? Or should I start hunting with a rifle? And it's a really great question. It comes up a lot. I know when I first started thinking about starting to hunt and I learned about wild meat and the benefit of eating wild meat, and I said, oh, I got to go get me some of that. And I'm a primitive skills guy. I'm really into nature. I'm really into doing things sort of in ancestral ways. I'm into, everything along those lines. And I had this idea of that I was going to make a bow, right? I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to hunt, and I'm going to go out there and get me a stick, and I'm going to bend it and make a bow. I'm going to make some arrows, and I'm going to shoot a deer with my own homemade bow. And I think a lot of people are thinking in those terms, especially that come from these circles of primitive skills and nature-based people and wanting to do things as ethically as possible and as close to nature as possible. But I soon learned that whole concept was a complete romantic fantasy, and it was so far from reality and actually having success that things they're so much different than how we often think.
Yeah, I do. I get it. Like, that's the traditional way that hunters and gatherers started years ago. And when you get into hunting, you really want to connect with these traditional ways. And so I think that's where I'm going to go and hunt. I'm going to get this bow and arrow and really, but I think that there's more to the story.
Exactly. There's so much more to the story. And one of the big parts of that story is that hunting itself, learning how to hunt, especially as an adult, like a lot of us, and we haven't grown up with it, it hasn't been in our background, we haven't had people to teach us, it's extremely difficult. It's one of the hardest things I have ever learned, and I've done all kinds of cool stuff that was very difficult to learn. And it's definitely been the hardest thing I've ever had to learn to actually have success. So I started to discover that in order for me to have success and actually harvest animals, I had to take away all the things that were self-imposed difficulties. And hunting animals with a bow and arrow is very difficult because you've got to get so close to it. I mean, extremely close. 20 yards, 30 yards. Max distance is 40 yards or so to shoot an animal ethically and safely. And that's extremely close. So, I do hunt with a bow, don't get me wrong, and there's a reason why we'll talk about really good reasons to hunt with a bow and a rifle, but there's just been so many times that I was out there hunting with an archery tag and I got a deer or an elk or whatever within, 80 yards or 100 yards, and with a rifle, that would have been an easy shot. I would have had that animal, I would have been bringing it home, putting it in the freezer. But because I had a bow, I could not get close enough to get the shot. And that can be so frustrating to put in weeks or days or months trying to find this animal, stalking in close, getting very close. Close enough with a rifle, you'd have it easy, but then not getting the shot because of the tool that you're using. I mean, I can't describe how frustrating and upsetting that can be, especially for a new hunter when you're just trying to get some success in the beginning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, where you actually, the bow could come in later. Once you've gotten out there, you've got your feet wet, you've had success, you have more confidence, and then, introduce the bow.
Exactly, and that's how a lot of hunters get into archery, is they start out rifle hunting, they have some success, they take quite a few animals, and they want to challenge themselves. There's a saying that where the rifle hunt ends, the archery hunt begins. So when you see an animal at 200 yards with your rifle, you can shoot it and you're done. But with archery, that's when you've got to stalk in and be super quiet and super slow and use all your skills, which is fantastic. And don't get me wrong, it's an incredible experience when it all comes together and it works out. but it can be a great way to challenge yourself in the future after you've gotten some proficiency, you've gotten a few animals, and you say, you know what? I want to make this a little bit harder. I want to challenge myself.
I like that. Start with the easier way first.
Yeah, and get some success, because I've talked to people who started with hunting archery and that's all they did, and 6 years later they had never killed an animal. I talked to a guy in Montana who had been coming up to hunt elk in Montana with a bow, archery, for 7 years. And I said, have you ever got one? He said, no. I don't know. I mean, it depends on who you are.
Yeah, maybe that's his thing.
Yeah, if that's your thing, if you have that type of patience, that's awesome. I really, in some ways, I respect and envy people like that. But I am not like that. I gotta get some success, and I gotta see some stuff happen in a relatively realistic period of time for me to want to keep going with something.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
And at the end of the day, for me and for Melissa and our family, it's about putting meat in the freezer. It's about getting animals that we can eat. The whole process is a part of it, and it's really important, and we love every part of it. But at the end of the day, we want to have success because we want to bring some food home to feed ourselves.
Yes, thank you for bringing home that food.
Oh, you're welcome, honey. One more. So a few more reasons why you do want to bow hunt. It's not. I don't want to totally. Sometimes I feel a little bit like a bow archery pessimist because I've had so many of those experiences where I was so close and that deer was right there, but I could not shoot it because it was just too far. So sometimes I'm like, oh man, wish I had my rifle. But there are times that bow hunting is fantastic, and you should do it even as a beginner along with rifle hunting, because a lot of times you can get tags with the bow that you could not get with the rifle. Here where we live in Arizona right now, this is a perfect example. To get a rifle tag to hunt a deer, you often have to put into the draw for several years before you can get a tag. And in the more coveted places, 7, 8, even 10 years before you can actually get a tag to go hunting. But every single year, you can get an archery tag.
Oh, wow. So there's more opportunity.
Over the counter, which is pretty cool. So if you're waiting to get that coveted tag on the Arizona Strip and hunt mule deer, and you're going to want to, you're okay waiting a decade to get it. Me, not so much. But you can go bow hunting while you wait, which is really cool. When I got into bow hunting, I really had this dream of hunting goats in Kauai on this trail that I had been to before, the Kalalau Trail. And they're just incredibly beautiful hunt, Hawaiian jungle, up and down these steep cliffs, goats everywhere, but you had to use a bow. Archery hunting was not allowed because there's so many tourists.
Oh wait, rifle hunting.
I'm sorry, rifle hunting wasn't allowed because there's so many tourists and you might accidentally shoot somebody, which is very valid. We were just, no, sorry.
Oh, no. So you have to use the bow. No.
Yeah, so you got to use a bow. So it helps to get yourself a bow and learn archery so that you'll be available to have these other opportunities as they come up. So I encourage people to do both. At the Wild Meat Retreat, we focus on marksmanship and shooting with firearms. And the hunt, we actually use firearms because we're interested in making it as easy as possible for the people like you to have success. We don't want to make it more difficult. We want you to use the tool that will help you start getting meat on your table as quickly as possible.
I like that so much. And we include a target practice. So there's rifle practice and...
Yeah.
Now, another question that comes up is, will I have a chance to learn bow hunting at the retreat? And last retreat, we actually only did rifle, but I was thinking that we could set up a little stand and do a couple. So we've been talking about it because we know a lot of people want to learn archery, and like I said, there's a lot of reasons to learn archery. We're going to set up some target practice. We're going to have some bows, and we're going to do some work learning archery so you can experience that and get some shots in. Yeah, and it's not the main focus just because there's so much to get into these 3 days.
Yeah.
It would probably be like really 6 days. It would be so much longer if we really had it all in there. But I think it would be really nice to just have even a traditional bow or the compact bow and just a little bit of that. Because it is fun to get your feet wet. Like I said, I had a lot of fun the first time I shot the traditional bow.
That's true. One last thing to talk about with archery, like Miss Lissa's bringing up here. Archery, traditional versus compound. This is a compound bow. That cool thing, cool looking. Got all the strings and they all,
It's like an instrument.
Pretty badass. So this is a lot easier to have success than what's called a traditional bow, which is what you might think of in archery, where it's got it's a one curve, or the recurve bow with curves at the end and one string. That's just a lot more challenging to use. The compound bow shoots further, straighter, faster, and has a little sight, just like on a rifle, to help you get more accurate shots. So once again, if you want to get into archery, a compound bow, I think, is the best way to start, because it just gives you success that much quicker.
Awesome.
And once again, once you get good at that, I know a lot of people who are going hunting with a traditional bow because they want to challenge themselves more. They want to have to get closer to the animal. Right?
Do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, because I never hardly even hear of that. That's
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
We have a good friend. So we have a javelina hunt coming up, and once again, I got this javelina archery tag because I knew there was going to be less people applying for the archery tag than the rifle tag. Mm-hmm. And I've got a buddy that's going, and he's going to shoot with a traditional bow because he wants to challenge himself more. He's a great hunter. He's been at it a long time and just wants that little extra bit of challenge.
Yeah, I was thinking that. He's been at it a long time.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Behind me is the infrared sauna. I'm totally changing the subject here. And this is available to use at the Wild Meat Retreat to get a little bit of sweat on and detox. And I think last time only one person used it, but it's totally here and available.
Right. Yeah, because traditionally native cultures would have a detoxification process as part of their ceremony for hunting, and we do a lot of that at the retreat. A lot of focus on ceremony, on intention, on prayer. And this is our sort of modern way to accomplish that, so we don't have time to do the full sweat lodge and everything. But you can use our infrared sauna.
Purify, right?
Purify, detox, and prepare for the hunt.
And for life. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you at the Wild Meat Retreat. WildMeatRetreat.com.
See you there.
Bye.